Okay, here I am down the allotment. What we've got is two polynukes, the rusty red one and the brown one. Now I put two frames of bees in each of these on the 27th of June, which is 5 weeks ago. The one on the left, unfortunately the queen didn't come back mated, so is now queenless. Whereas the one on the right, which I'm opening now, has got a newly mated queen, which has been laying eggs now for the best part of 10 or 11 days. Now, there's also another slight anomaly here, in the sense that even though there's 6 frames, 3 of the frames are from my hive in the garden, which are traditional frames with foundation, and the other 3 are actually top bar frames. So I'm in the process of essentially trying to get this little colony together so I can put it in a top bar hive. You can see there that frame has got some bees on it. I'm just shaking those off. And what I'm essentially doing now is, as best I can, and it's not a perfect job this, but as best I can, I'm about to put a newspaper divide. So there's 3 frames away from the camera, and then there's space for 3 frames on this side. And the plan is to take all the bees out of the red rusty nuke box and shake them into the gap which I'm about to make up, divided by this sheet of newspaper. When I tried to put in the first time, it didn't quite fit, so I'm just taking this one out just to create a little bit of space. Yeah, and checking the queen's not on there. Last thing I want to do is lose this queen. That would be very unhelpful, to say the least. Right, position that on there. And now I'm just going to pull the 2 remaining frames away to create a little bit more space to squeeze this newspaper divide down the centre of the hive. Here it comes. Now, in my head I assumed this would go in very easily, but it was a bit fiddly, as you're about to see. So I sort of poked it in there, and in the end got my hive tool and broddled it into place. Here it goes, look. It's a little bit fiddly, but there you go. So the theory is now we've got a divide down the middle. The top bar frames are coming on this side, and the traditional frames are on the other side. And the plan is to smoke it up with lots of smoke, just to confuse any guard bees and everything, and just to confuse everybody on it. I say everybody, all the bees. The plan being, by doing so, they can integrate together without fighting, and more importantly, they can do that without deciding to attack my queen, which would not be good at all. So just popping that in there. So with a little fair wind behind it, we're now in a situation where I can take a couple of frames out, create some space, and start shaking bees down. Now I'm giving it a really good old smoke up, just to sort of just to confuse them more than anything. They do like to communicate with pheromones, and that will just make it that bit more difficult to work out what's going off for our while everything gets settled. So I'm just taking 2 of these frames out. Clearly I put it on top of the box, which is not the best place to put it. And there you go. That's the frame of wax. I'm hoping within the next 2 or 3 weeks we'll have 3 solid frames of wax right down. I've also put a little bit of polyplastic Corex to create the shape, like the triangular shape, which will then, in theory, fit straight into a top bar hive. There we go, a bit more smoke for good measure. Now, when I shook these bees in, I was not as accurate as I would have liked to have been, and I managed to shake a good half of them. Didn't actually fall into the gap where I anticipated they were going to go. It looks even worse on camera than it actually was, but it is certainly a lot of bees missed the hole they were supposed to go in, which you're about to see. One for future, try and be slightly more accurate. That said, it's not quite as easy to squeeze the frame now we would normally go, because I've got that Corex in its place. So as you can see, I shook it and a lot of them fell. Not quite where I wanted them to go, but there you go, such is life. Another one here, equally badly shaken in. Here it comes. There you go, fell over the side. Oh well, such is life. Rest of these frames in here are generally just empty foundation. People might think, why has he got 4 empty frames of foundation in there? Really would have done better to put the central divide in, which is which is basically correct, but it's midsummer. It's a polystyrene hive, and they're so well insulated, these boxes. I thought at least they can, while they're not doing anything, they can draw some frames out. That was my school of thinking. So there we go. A bit more smoke again. So I'm now going to put the lid back on again, because there's the bees everywhere. Now, even at this stage, it became apparent, even though I'd made a little bit of a mess of it, the bees were all sort of finding their way to the entrance and fanning their Nasnov glands to essentially tell the bees that this was home. So, although I didn't intend to do it this way, this is how it sort of played out. Final thing I thought would be a good idea would be to move the box to the position of the previous polynuke. Theory being, any returning bees who are out foraging would think half would think they're supposed to go in there, and the other half would use the smell of the queen. So I put it somewhere generally in the middle, like that. And as you can see, there's lots of bees flying around. I didn't film it much further than this because the battery started to go, but within 10 minutes the whole scene had calmed right down and everything seemed okay. So I will return tomorrow and check that out. But in the short term, despite my poor shaking of bees into the gap, I think everything seems quite good. And I suppose it's only a success when I check in tomorrow or in a couple of days and find that the queen's still there and they're all settled in. I didn't get the impression, although you can never tell of course, that the bees were going to go in there and attack the queen. They were what's called hopelessly queenless, the ones in the rusty red hive. So they'll be well happy to find a mated queen, because without that they were destined to fail, if that makes sense. I think that's about it really. The brown hive, when I did check it, the queen had been laying for about 10 days and there was lots of eggs, lots of larvae and lots of brood. So in another 11 days or so they will start hatching out, and that will very soon become a full box of bees. 11 days from now is the 12th of August, and that's when, not long after there, I need to make a decision whether I think we've got enough time to position them in a hive or whether I should take them through the winter first. Being impatient that I am, there's a high chance, unless it's a disaster, that these will be going into the hive around about the 20th of August. We shall see. Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Any comments? Leave them below. There you go, a little bit shaking there. As I say, 10 minutes after I turn the camera off, everything seems settled, and pretty confident that despite my clumsiness, that it's been a success. We shall see. Thank you.